Welcome back, and now I have the great pleasure of introducing someone who's become a close friend of mine and someone who's going to be an advisor for me. Chris Flisher, how are you?
I'm fine, Christina. Thanks for having me on.
And the advising that I'm talking about is from a spiritual astrological level, and that's
right.
Your profession, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, I'm an astrologer. I've been studying astrology since I was about 20 years old, which is quite a while ago. And
in this life or a past life?
In this life, actually. And a perfect stranger who I had not met before came to me and asked me my birth coordinates. And I happened to know exactly when I was born, where I was born, and obviously the birthday. And the next day they came back and gave me a reading about myself, which I was totally, completely surprised by because of the accuracy.
Right.
I had no idea that this a perfect stranger knew so much about me that could be derived from my birth date, and just that simple. And it was very deep, involved, intimate information. It was very granular in detail. So I was really hooked from that moment on. That was, 40 years ago, and I've been studying astrology ever since, totally fascinated by the accuracy of it, because it does work. And I get constant validation every time I speak to somebody about it.
Now, I know that I mentioned in my opening that, even though every single moment of our lives are a learning experience, I could just say goodbye to 2012.
You can say goodbye to 2012.
Now, is there something that was going on astrologically that made a lot of us feel that way?
Yes, absolutely. There was.
Good.
There was a lot that's going on that made a lot of us feel that way, and there's more coming. So that's the other thing. So we're in what's considered to be a very cardinal time. Now, cardinal is a word that we use about initiation. Okay, it's about new beginnings. So we're obviously seeing that. But in order for a beginning to begin, we have to have an ending. And the ending we've seen it with the banking industry, we've seen it with certain large organizations, we've seen a certain restructuring, and that has to do with two larger outer planets that are part of the solar system. One is Pluto and one is Uranus. So they have been their little dance together between themselves in the universe is what's been causing a lot of this destruction, reconstruction. So things have to be brought down in order to bring them back up again. So that's where we are.
I'm going to sound like I'm a little bit of an expert because I've heard this so many times from you and others, but Pluto is squaring Uranus.
That's right.
So what does that mean?
Well, when you look at it, if you look at basic geometry, it's a 90-degree angle. So you look at the circle, which is the zodiac wheel, and the two planets are at this sort of an angle. So anytime there's a 90-degree angle in astrology, it's considered to be a time of tension. It's a time of building because there's real tension there. It's almost like an architectural angle.
Sure.
Wherever you have two angles like that, there is tension there as opposed to a softer angle. So astrology is based on geometry. It's based on a certain logic, and it's based on the planet, as well as the interrelationships of planets. Sure. So when these two are interacting with each other, we see this activity happening. It's very real. I mean, we were talking about this 15, 20 years ago. We knew an economic collapse was going to come. We knew that these sort of organizations, large organizations, were going to begin to collapse, and we've seen it.
And I believe I heard you say this and others, but the male energy, the military male energy is sort of dissipating to allow an opening for more female, soft, nurturing energy,
Right. Well, this is a major, major shift. I mean, this is sort of what the whole idea of what people were talking about with the Mayan calendar. This was the whole idea. It's really not the end of the world. It's sort of the end of the world as we know it.
As we know it.
As we've known it. And that has been a military-industrial, male-dominated, sort of aggressive kind of behavior, which has sort of, I think, has come to its last gasp.
Okay.
And so we are in a time of transition between the pendulum swinging the other direction, which will, I think, bring us into a time where we'll see more feminine energy, more community support, more of a resource sharing, because the resources have depleted. So as resources deplete, people need to start sharing them.
Right.
And so that sharing process brings together a natural, harmonious connection with people, which is really what we do. We do need to belong together. I mean, we do need to be more together as opposed to isolated.
And instead of the me, myself, and I, it'll be us and we.
Well, it should be more that. It will. I mean, it's gonna. I mean, this is a 200 or 300 or 400-year transition, but I'm saying we are on the way. So we're at the cusp.
That's
meaning
great.
at the very edge of that. So that's.
It would be nice for everybody to have a little bit more of a feminine feeling or energy.
Absolutely. I mean,
nurturing home.
We wouldn't be in war if we had a female in the office. I don't think we would ever have been in war had we had that kind of energy.
Let me ask you. I know this is a prediction; it might be far off, but with all this feminine energy seeping through, do you think we're going to have a woman president?
I do.
Soon?
I
you
do.
You heard it here.
I do.
You heard it here. And it's not going to be me. Don't worry about it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you should.
Nope.
It is. We're sort of in what I would consider to be a transitions phase. So we're sort of bridging a gap. And I think the fact that Barack Obama is present is indicative of an earlier time when a seed was planted back in the 60s, when we had a very similar type of energy, a very creative, rebellious type of energy, when Pluto and Capricorn, Pluto and Uranus were both in Virgo. Together, they spurned this creative burst of energy that came out of the 1960s. So we had the segregation, and we had race riots back then. We also had the women's feminist movement back then. Both of those were seeds that were planted in that time that are now coming to fruition in this era. So Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, both running for office, one represented the racial element and one represented the feminine energy. So
now let's get into a little bit of your art. I was in New York recently, and Marianne Williamson, which is one of my favorite self-help gurus, has done a book called the Divine Compensation, the Divine Miracle of Compensation. And she says we shouldn't be focusing on money and making money, but we should be focusing on the passion of what we do, and the money will come. So it looks like your passion has been astrology and has been translated into art. So let's go into a little bit about your art, which is here.
Well, the form of art that I specialize in is what's called a mandala, which is an Indian, Hindu, Buddhist sort of meditative practice. It's a form of artwork that is derived based on the circle. The circle is really the thing, and that's what the word mandala actually means, circle, in Sanskrit, which is an Indian language. So I've always been fascinated with these ever since around the same time. I was about 18 or 19 years old when I happened to see these figures and started to work with them. And they take a long time to draw, and the Buddhists have a certain approach to them where they draw them out in sand and then sweep them away. Obviously, I do mine in acrylic inks. And they certainly, I think they represent, they're a metaphor for community because there's a circular aspect to them. So within this circle, we have community, we have the circle of friends, we have the circle of family, we have the cycles of the days and the years, and that round circular figure is actually maternal. It has a sense of, I always call it a womb with a view, because it's like it has that womb-like maternal character. So I think this is a sort of a precursor to where we're headed as far as that.
A little bit more roundness versus
more. It's not as harsh. It's not as edgy. So they. I've worked with them for years, drawing them. They are all based in the idea of expansion, the idea of cross-cultural connections, making connections between cultures, knocking down barriers, bringing optimism and color into people's lives. I'd love to see these on buildings.
That's great.
Huge buildings where we saw color instead of concrete.
Well, let's look at some of them, because I know we could do the whole show on this, but this is the astrological wheel.
This is the zodiac wheel. It's actually called zodiac. So we have all the signs of the zodiac are there. This was done in acrylic inks. The original is about, 30 inches by 30 inches. And acrylic inks are like watercolors, but they are inks, so they are much deeper in pigment. So you're able to get a much richer splash of color. And then, of course, you're able to lay colors on top of each other, so they become...
Okay, let's look at some there.
Some of these are, this is a sort of a Buddhist theme. This is called dorje, which is a talisman in Buddhist traditions, where you would have this piece in the center there, which is sort of like a talisman, which is sort of like a good luck or an evil, thing that would help prevent evil. And the other ones are based on they have themes. I mean, each of them has a name, each of them has a story. They're part of my book. And they became, they became sort of, companions of mine, I guess you could say, each a piece. So I've drawn hundreds of them. They all have different names. But the basic underlying theme is about that cross-cultural.
And you sell them. You sell
I
them.
do.
You sell them, and then they can go on your website chrisflisher.com. Flisher,
That's right.
chrisflisher.com. And this book also, you offer this book as well.
Yes, I do.
It explains a little bit about it.
And I have puzzles and other things as well.
The spirit in art. We had these young men who have funky stuff of Worcester, and you should probably
I should connect with them. Yeah, I think I will.
Great.
I absolutely think I will.
Chris, thank you so much, and I can't wait for you to go over your chart.
Your chart.
I mean, my chart, but not on the air. No. But thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thank you,
We'll
Christina.
have you back again.
That's great. Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back.